Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Orange First here on Denver 7, the Denver's channel, the Denver 7 app. Our first look at the Broncos as they look ahead to the Texans, and again, Orange First, our first look back at what happened in San Diego on Thursday Night Football. As always, with me are my compatriots, my Broncos insider and my outlier. Woody Page is here and Troy Rank as well. Guys, welcome. Orange First again. Let's start off with our Pump the Brakes segment, brought to you by Brakes Plus, where we look back at the Chargers, kind of look back at what's happening this week. And it's Gary Kubiak is back. That's the first thing. Guys, he had to watch that game on his couch, right? Watching the Chargers beat the Broncos. He was supposed to take it easy and get some rest. That had to be as stressful as anything he's ever done on the sideline.
Well, very uncomfortable for him. He said he had 2 days off in a row, which would have been essentially Monday, Tuesday. By Wednesday, he was contacting the coaches. He couldn't stay away. He's like, what the heck do you do with 2 days off during the season? He didn't know. But it was frustrating. And he said on Monday that what bothered him was not that they lost, that they've lost consecutive games, Lionel, in this almost the same fashion.
Right.
They've come out flat. They've gotten behind. And, you know, in some cases 7-0, some cases 10-0. And offensively, they can't run the ball. And so that pattern continued, Woody. And with Kubiak back, it was kind of like the teacher is back, the substitute teacher is gone. There was a sense of purpose at practice. And if they don't come out this week fired up, I'd be shocked.
Well, I'm a little saddened for Joe DeCamillis because Arvada was planning a big parade in his honor for his first victory. First Arvada coach in any professional sports. Turning to Kubiak, I recently moved, and my place previously, I could look out my window and look into his window. And I wasn't stealing signs like they would do in baseball, but I thought watching the game the other night, I could be sitting here on my sofa waving at him on his sofa. But I've moved, which he's very happy about because we'd see each other in the gym. I'm so glad that they feel like that it's under control, that he's got to deal with some sleep issues, that there were talks between the two doctors. Now moving on to the football situation. I actually think that him being away, even though they lost the game, that now he can come back with a new perspective about what this team needs to do. Whenever you back off from something and look at yourself or look in the mirror or look at a distance, you see he's realizing some of the same things we are that we'll talk about during the show, but I think he looked at that game and say, you know, we got to get off to a better start. Right. We got to get a tight end involved. If it's somebody off the street from the bus station, we've got to get better play out of our quarterback. We got to get better running game. He saw all the same things we did, but he wasn't inside the room.
Right.
He was outside watching like we were.
He watched it on TV, you're exactly right. And he pointed out specific things this week that they need to fix. They've got to get off to a better start, he said. We got to eliminate the penalties and mistakes. The penalties in San Diego were costly. They weren't just, you know, 1st and 15 on a you know, an offsides penalty. These were things that cost him points. So he specifically pointed out a bunch of things that he saw that coming back this week they need to fix for Houston.
Well, he mentioned Devontae Booker by name.
Yeah, getting more reps.
Look for him to play more. Now, he didn't say he's going to start, but he didn't mention anyone else by name.
Right.
And he said the Rook deserves more chance. So look for more of a 50-50 split with C.J. Anderson and Devontae Booker. So attention, Fantasy League owners. There you go. There's your tip for the week. That Booker's going to get more action, Lionel. They picked up a guard off waivers and Billy Turner, which is clearly an indication they're not happy with Max Garcia, and to a lesser degree Michael Schofield, that they've been struggling. They expect more out of their tackles. You know, Donald Stevens has got to play better than he did. And Lionel, we talked about this on Sunday night. Their defense last year through 6 games had given up 0 points in the first quarter.
Unbelievable stat.
This year, 41.
Yeah.
They're almost last, Woody. 31 of those on first drives of games. They have got to figure that part out because the offense is struggling, and then they get the ball and they're already down 7-0 for an offense that's already challenged.
Kubiak said no one likes to play from behind in this
Well, especially not this offense.
Right.
As you and I have talked about off the air, that puts the defense in a situation where they are even more concerned about we've got to make something out of it. We've got to do it. And so I think they're probably taking more risk. I think that they're getting frustrated with the offense. We saw that with the wide receivers earlier in the year. I think if you went to a bunch of the secondary personnel and said, tell me what you really think, if you got them in a bar some night,
Right.
they would say, man, they got to help us out some. We're not getting any help. We're getting behind early. We're getting in a hole. But the defense is the one that's giving up the points in the first quarter.
Yeah, they got to make an adjustment. I think they will, and part of it is getting out of base personnel, using Roby more in a safety alignment, T.J. Ward possibly in the box. They said Brandon Marshall claims it's not the running back routes and tight end routes that are hurting the linebackers. It's the way they're getting into those routes. They feel like they can cover them, whatever. They need to make an adjustment because it's not just that. The drives, the average play drive is 10 plays per drive. It's gorging the clock. So not only down 7-0, they get the ball and there's like half the first quarter left.
Yeah. All right, well, let's switch gears to the Xfinity X1 injury report right now. There were some guys came out of the Chargers game, Russell Okung, Cody Latimer. Wynn didn't practice earlier in the week. Trevor, his shoulder may still be sore, but he's got a lot of time to the next game. And then you had the hip on Emmanuel Sanders. What's the latest on the injuries?
Well, Russell Okung and Cody Latimer attended practice Monday, putting themselves in position to play for Monday night because that's part of the protocol to even be outside. So there's a possibility they'll both be available. Sanders' hip sore, but he was at practice, not worried about him. Matt Paradis and Billy Wynn were both given almost like you'd say veteran rest days because of the wear and tear. Matt Paradis has played every offensive snap the last 2 years. The only guy in the NFL to do that. So he needed a rest day. Right. But they're in decent shape if Okung could play. They would miss Okung. I mean, obviously he did not play well.
And Trevor's got to be.
Trevor's going to feel better. I mean, he can't be. He was compromised, and Gary Kubiak talked about.
He said that. He said it on
how
Monday.
he felt like his arm was trapped under him and secured, and he looked that way in a couple sacks. But Lionel, with an extra time off, he'll get better. He'll get better. Now, he's not going to be 100%, but he'll be better, Woody.
Well, the concern I have, though, is in a case like Cody Latimer. He was finally beginning to develop into a player that he was supposed to be when he was drafted, but he's been oft-injured is a way that we refer to people.
Oft-injured.
Oft-injured.
And the ensuing kickoff is another one.
He had his helmet knocked off on that play.
But he's had that throughout his career where he's been out for 2 games. He never could get a consistency, a rhythm going with the team. Okung, we know, one of the reasons why Seattle gave up on him is he's been injury prone during his career. Now, this is a concussion and dehydration. However, you always are concerned when you see that players, Emmanuel Sanders gets hurt every game because of the way he throws his body around. He never does miss it. So you can depend on him to show up even if he's on the injury report all week. So I think the other thing with Simeon is I don't think we really know how badly he's been hurt. I mean, there's a knot on his shoulder. I think he's dragging the arm around a little bit. He didn't show anything on that Hail Mary. I think that was kind of protecting the other arm and not being able to get, because like a baseball pitcher, you got to get your full body behind it, a golf swing, and I didn't see that.
Yeah. All right, well, let's keep on the subject of quarterbacks here, and let's do some talking dirty. Because this week, Brandon Marshall in the locker room talked a little bit dirty about Brock Osweiler coming back. It's the Houston Texans, Gary Kubiak's former team. It's Brock Osweiler, the former Broncos quarterback, and here they come on Monday Night Football. Both are 4-2. You can't set this up any better. But Troy, Brandon Marshall's quote was, I want to kill him. I want to kill Brock Osweiler. Now, there was a lot of stuff before that, right? But that was how he ended his quote about Brock.
He said, hey, I'm glad he got paid.
Yes.
No ill will, ... We want to kill him.
Yeah.
It's competition. And it didn't go over particularly well. If you remember, think back to March, Broncos felt a little jilted, mainly because the players couldn't reach to Brock. He basically shut his phone off, went into a spider cave, and let his agent handle everything. And they're like, we thought we were guys. We thought we were friends. And no one could reach him. So they felt a little jilted. In the end, the Broncos were happy he didn't take their offer of 4 years, $64 million. I mean, they got to $16 million, didn't take it. Yeah. They were uncomfortable with that money. I just want to thank Brock personally, from a journalism standpoint, for not getting benched this week. Because in the fourth quarter of that game Sunday night, he's 12 for 24 for 89 yards, getting booed. I'm like, Brock may not start. That just takes the teeth out of this game. Now it's Brock week. It's not Shark week, Woody, but it's Brock the Fangs.
Going for Brock.
Chris Harris was like, I like this matchup. We're going to get picks. Brandon Marshall's like, I looked at their film. It's going to be a great week for our defense.
Well, they all said he holds the ball too long. He's throwing it around. He's throwing picks.
I love it.
The 29th rated passer in the NFL coming in here. If they get to him, Woody, it's all over.
Well, let's go behind those statistics. If you look at it, and I call him Brockweiler, and I did to his face in a column I wrote about him a couple of years ago. And on the other side, I've got what I'm calling Simonich, which is the combination of Simeon and Paxton Lynch. And their numbers are eerily similar if you look at it. And the biggest one is 6-2, 4-2.
Yeah.
But if you look, the numbers are a little over 1,000 yards passing when you combine Lynch and Simeon. Touchdowns, 8 and 8.
Yeah, 8 and 8
Interceptions
for
and
Brock,
touchdowns for Brockweiler. And for the other side, it's like 9 and 4. Sacks, the Broncos have been sacked more. So when you talk about Brock Osweiler hanging on to the football, that was one of the problems that we've seen with both Simeon and Lynch, is that they're hesitant about throwing the ball, especially Simeon trying to go downfield. He is, as Troy continues to point out, I'm now going to call him Dinkin' Donuts, because that's what he's doing, dinking and dunking. And so I want to see a little bit more action down the field.
They have to run the ball so the safety comes down.
Right.
The safety's bracketing everything. And Simeon is almost robotic in his way he reads football. It's just like, boom, safety there, must throw down.
Yeah.
Until the safety comes up, they're not going to go deep. And everyone's like, why not Cincinnati? Just like they were in man coverage. No team has played them in man on the outside since that game. Why? They don't run the ball. Why would you bring a safety down? They're getting pressure with 3 guys, Lionel. They don't need to blitz.
Right.
You don't need to bring the safety into the box.
But you're leaving out one thing, and I keep coming back to it since the beginning of the season. When you've got all your tight ends in the witness protection program, we don't know where they are. They could be in Arizona. They could be in Alaska, because they're not on the football field on Sundays. So you can't help the running game with a tight end on that side that they're running to. Number 2, you're not protecting your running game by sending a tight end into the middle, really, to take a linebacker out of the play, because they're not paying any attention to the tight ends, guy.
I agree. I think maybe they're in Al Capone's vault, Woody.
We need to see more of Hammerhead. Landshark.
You have had
Janovich.
You are like president of his fan
I love
cave.
that guy, man.
He's playing
He
less
makes
and
things
less. So,
happen.
have you noticed the more they pass, the more he
International
sits on
House
the
of
bench?
Pancakes, I'll call the guy. Well, look, guys, I mean, we could hear it in the locker room from the defensive players. When you talk about Brock, their eyes almost lit up. And we talked a little bit about it, but Harris, Marshall, even Sly Williams are like, yeah, we could have a big week
let
this
me take
week.
this first.
They know Brock. That's the thing. They know him.
He's your favorite son. You ask him every question first. I'm going to say this. I told you last night,
nothing
L
personal,
Train, and I'm
Woody.
a
Yeah,
he's
sure it
closer.
is. I told you last
very
night, I'm
personal.
going to tell you again, because you got to remember this and think about this, that, of course, the defense is looking forward to him. He may know the players, but he doesn't know specific players like they know him. They watched him every day in practice for 3 years, so they know him. The cast has somewhat changed defensively, so they've honed in on him. They know what his strengths are, his weaknesses. They know where he's going to go with his eyes, and he can't quite figure out where they're going because they're reacting to it.
Well, I got
If
to point
Houston
this
has
out.
sympathy for him, for Brock, they're going to go up tempo. When Brock's up tempo, he looked fine.
Yeah.
If they go in that traditional Houston offense that they showed the first 3 quarters,
Slow.
I don't know that he exits that game
Yeah, looked
outside
like a
of
quicksand.
with a trainer.
Well, I got to point this out. Woody, you lived close enough to see into Kubiak's window in your last place. Your new place belonged to who?
Brock Osweiler.
You moved into Brock Osweiler's place when he left.
It's
6 degrees of separation. It's like 2 degrees of separation with Woody Page
I
here.
walk in the shower, and his DNA is all over the shower.
Oh!
I can't throw deep
That's
either.
not good. All right. Well, let's get to the keys of the game. I think one of them is definitely is start fast for me on offense and just get to Brock quickly, whether it's a turnover, whether it's a couple of sacks, whether it's a pick. Make something happen with Osweiler. Get him rattled, get in his head. Don't let him get up on you 7-0 after the first drive. And I think you got the Texans on the run if you do that.
That, and they got to stop the run. Lamar Miller was their best player in that game, I thought, when the Texans rallied. Now, DeAndre Hopkins is their best player for me, with J.J. Watt out and not going to play. But Hopkins is a beast. But the Broncos have shown they can take a number 1 receiver out of a game, Lionel.
Right.
But Lamar Miller's really good, and he's playing well. Take him out. The Broncos, here's the issue. They're starting slow defensively, and then they figure it out. They've given up 41 points in the first quarter, only 108 the rest of the quarters of the season. They're fine, so start better defensively. Their offense has scored 1 first-quarter touchdown.
Yeah.
They have 6 points, Woody, in the third quarter. They have got to get back to having some balance, as he keeps alluding to, is this imbalance of if the defense doesn't score a touchdown, if the defenses don't score touchdowns. Last year was an aberration in a wonderful way. But the defense scored 6 touchdowns last year. They were their second best offensive player. They need the offense to do their part. They got to run the football. That's my key. Run the football, stop the run. They'll be fine. If they don't run the football, it's going to be a long day. They can't throw 50 times and win. This offense is not built for that.
That's what I'm talking about. When you go to him first, see, I'm not left with much. It's like
there's no meat on the bone.
Everything he said, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Ditto. That's going to be his nickname.
Ditto. Yeah. But let me add a couple.
Just change seats
let
next show.
Let me add a couple of things. I think it's shake Brock up early.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think Wade Phillips is going to be a key to this game. That he's going to show Brock looks that he didn't see when he was here, looks that he hasn't seen this year. Because I think if they shake him up early, that's going to put
the crowd's going to be booing.
Yeah, and I think it creates an atmosphere there. Secondly, that's what I was going to talk about. This crowd has kind of turned on the Broncos the last time they played here, and their quarterback. The crowd needs to be in this Monday night game. I think that can make a difference. John Elway's always told me that when he played, it was not the offense that created the air in the stadium.
Yeah.
It was defense doing things. So I think that's Wade Phillips, the crowd, and the third thing is, my goodness, can we get something out of some tight end? And I'm going to keep talking about it. You guys talk about a guy that's a kid out of Ohio State that really, can we see him actually get on the field and make more than that one good catch he made?
Right? Somebody drafted him on his fantasy team, and he's bitter. He's bitter.
Hireman, come on. Make Woody happy, please, Hireman, this week.
Yeah.
All right. It is time now for Troy's favorite part of the show. Mine too. Time for Woody's rant. I mean, as if you haven't ranted already, but no, this isn't. It's time for an official rant. Woody.
I want to look into the camera and talk about the tight ends. No, no, I got to come back, and I've done this a couple of times. I got to talk about the NFL. The NFL is getting caught up in stuff that makes no sense. I just saw a tape. They've introduced football in China.
Yeah.
And Peyton Manning went over there, walked on the wall.
Yao Ming.
And they had a touchdown, and they actually tell their players to have celebrations. Yeah. And they help with the choreography. And I'm thinking, that's what it used to be like. Chad Johnson before he came Ocho 88 or whatever his name he changed to. Yeah. Well, Ocho Cinco is not 88 either. He
was 85.
But the point of it is that I just think the NFL needs to relax. We were talking right before we went on the air that they're keeping their own teams from putting information and highlights on their accounts.
And the teams are making fun of them, making fun of the league.
I saw some cleats, some new cleats that I thought, I'd like to get a pair of those cleats and wear them around the studio. That they don't want players to be individuals.
Right.
They have guys like Wade Manning, who used to play for the Broncos, who's a stylish inspector. He goes around and makes sure that their shirt tails are tucked in, that they're not wearing special cleats, and he just cringes every time I talk to him, and I go, that must be one of the worst jobs. It's like being the crossing guard at a school where you have to tell the people you're in class with, you can't go across it. It's the same kind of thing. I just think, and I'm going to keep talking about this like I do the tight ends, NFL, relax. Here's what happened. The change in commissioners, but as important, and Troy really hasn't been around the league as long as I have, but I know Lionel has, they changed PR people. A lot of their older people who were with Pete Rozelle have now retired. As a result of that, if it was corporate America before, it's become just too white collar in terms of what they do. So, sure, no fun league, that doesn't bother me, but absolutely no fun league, it's now the American Football League, the absolutely no fun league.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll see if that changes in the future.
No, not because of what I said.
We'll show them this tape. All right, guys, quickly. Let's do predictions and then get out of here. I'm going to go with 27-14 Broncos. I don't think Brock Osweiler is going to be up for this challenge. He talked about great challenge coming in this week. I don't think it's going to happen for him. 27-14 Broncos. Woody, you go first, please.
Okay, that's good. I think the Broncos are going to score 30 points. I think they are going to get the running game going. I think they are going to get the wide receivers. We talked about Emmanuel and Demarius about 3 weeks ago, and where have they gone? They're sitting next to the tight ends. I think the wide receivers will be more involved. I think they throw more jump balls. I think they actually go down the field more. That Trevor's tired of hearing about it. And I also think that as a result of that, they'll score 30 points. I think that Brock will have a good game. It's important to him to have a good game here. So I think with Miller that you talked about, they have a running back that is just world class. I think he will be able to effectively run against this defense. I say 30-20 Broncos.
I love it.
Remember, I picked that score and they got smashed. I should have learned my lesson.
Oh, who had the right team last week, by the way?
You did. Woody picked. I'm going.
You sure did.
29.
29
to 20.
Write this down, I think.
Who's
Broncos.
29-20, 30-20. You too. All right.
It's like Price
we'll
is
see what
right.
happens.
He went over.
I don't know why you
bring it
guys
in
show
one.
up. You pick the Broncos every week. You could just mail in your
It's like
prediction.
the showcase on
Showcase Showdown?
Yeah, Showcase Showdown. 29-20, 30-20. So if they go under, you're
$1.
All right, guys. Thanks. Orange First is done for this week. We'll see you after the Monday night game. Broncos and Texans. We're all picking Broncos in this one. We'll see you after that one. Have a great week.